Woo. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Things are moving so quickly. I'm just gonna make sure. Okay. So forgot to write down my assignment here. And of
Oh,
course,
I edited the description, so all that you have to put in is the assignment. Cake was on the ball today.
so you even put in like the chapters?
I did what we looked at, yeah, for part two.
Wow, look at you go. Look at you go. That's, and I just want to show two. Nobody mind me. Just flying by the seat of my pants here. I have to say, I'm so like inundated with quilts to look at in this book. There's
Yes.
just so many.
This section was it was so good. And I did the reading, but I'm like, I need to go back and look at these quilts and like get out a magnifying glass.
I
Because
know
there
that
were
is the
some,
one bummer about doing quilts with so much detail.
yeah, and she would when she mentioned stuff, I like had the book up against my face trying to find. And I think like there was only one thing where I couldn't find what she was talking about. But I think eventually, with the exception of that one thing I found, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
do you want to see you want to see something cute while we're waiting for our friends?
yes, I want to see something cute while we're waiting for friends.
So see, it's
Is
a
it like a
little
little
treadle.
like Lego sewing machine?
It's not Lego, but it is a functional
Hi, D Marie. Or should we just start calling
steamer.
you LJ? You know what's funny? I mean,
Oh,
I'm not sure what all your full name is, but LJ is actually two of my initials just backwards because my initials are JL. Isn't that cute? We're like kindred. Oh my God, a blue
but can
little
you
sewing
see?
machine.
It actually works.
Wow. What is this from?
It is a dollhouse thing. It's called, I think it's Renwall
Mm-hmm.
is the company that makes and it's if you've ever seen that like really small, pretty, but it's all very pretty plastic dollhouse furniture, that's what this is.
Oh,
And
I
I
wouldn't have
found it on
expected dollhouse furniture to be like so brightly colored like that.
I did, I was looking around online because I was trying to find out more about Renwall. It's Renwall, I think. Yeah, Renwall is the company. Um, I was just looking around trying to see if they had anything else like this. Was this a one-off? And they do. They have lots of cute little things, and they're very well made. They're from like the 50s and 60s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I did find one that was brown, like it was natural looking. So I don't know if it was painted,
Hmm.
if they had taken one of these and painted it, or if it was just they weren't all these primary colors. But
Hi, Janet. Hi, Arlene. The gang's piling in.
yeah,
What would our Tuesday be without our friends?
I know. Oh,
I'm
no, I
just
can't
gonna
get it back
pop a
together.
link into the Facebook real quick and post. Oh, and Kate is here too. You're only on page 24. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in.
It really
So
is.
while we're hanging here, of course, it's your weekly reminder that our next book is coming. Patchwork Pillowcases by Ann Hermes, who's a nice friend of ours that's going to do an interview with us after. She has her own Etsy site, which Steph looks like she might be getting.
I completely forgot to grab the link.
Um, and she still has some copies of, even though her book's a little bit older, she still has some copies of it to sell. So please do support her in buying directly from her site. It's really great to support authors when we can do that. And then for next week, the 9th, we're gonna go on to part 3 of our crazy quilts. We're gonna do where did my note just go? Okay. we're gonna do the chapters Quilts Made for People and Six Quilters, which are pages 82 to 101. And of course, that'll be posted in places once we're done here. That's gonna give us 2 more nights in this book. And even if those chapters seem a little short or anything, it's because we've got some other things we want to look at as well, like some I've got a couple of crazy quilts here that I think I'm going to take some pictures of for you guys. We've got some quilts at the New England Quilt Museum to look at. Steph, why do you look scared?
Because I can't find the link.
I'll put it in the description after.
Okay. Sorry, guys. You'll have to look at the description.
And Dee Marie just said that you don't post to Facebook anymore.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I hardly ever post to Facebook. I'm sorry. I haven't been posting a whole lot lately. I'm bad. I'm terrible. I go in spurts. I gotta get better.
Well, and you were also just finishing up an art deadline.
I was, yeah. That just wrapped it yesterday.
And it's done, like
Sure.
sent in?
It is sent in. It's not done because I have a textile talk to do. So,
But I mean, like, your, like, major thing.
yes, I have 3 deliverables. I have a written piece, I have the artwork, and then I have the textile talk. The 2 hard pieces are done. The textile talk is going to be like easy breezy.
Okay, yay!
I'm knocking on wood.
we're gonna have to like find you like one of those like happy present to me kind of scenarios. You know, like
I'll just be happy. I mean, it's been a great experience, and I mean, obviously there's much more to be gleaned from it. It's not like it's a one and done for me. Like I have lots more artistic effort to put into this topic, but yeah, I'm kind of glad. I'm like, okay.
and just in case people don't know, this textile talk that you're doing for who?
It will be for the Quilt Alliance, because I am the artist, one of the Artist James, 2024 Artist James QSOS scholars.
And what's your date that you're going to do your talk online?
It is July 17th is the date I have right now. You know, I mean, I think things can always change, but I'm pretty sure they've scheduled it for that date.
Well, you're gonna have to like let everybody know when.
Oh, trust me, you guys, you're gonna know.
Yeah, because that's free to attend, right? Online.
Yeah, textile talks are free.
I
In
mean,
fact, we might just do a watch party on my stream one day after it, because yeah, it'll be fun.
For anyone that didn't see it, I don't know, Steph, if you saw it yet, because social media. But Sakwa is doing a textile talk that I posted up in the Quilt Nerding stories for Stitch Punk. Because
Yes,
it's a Sakwa exhibit. And on the cover, like on that ad, is that Minerva sculpture I told you about. So
oh, okay, yeah. I did see that.
I'm actually, I didn't look at the date off the top of my head. Is it tomorrow? Hi, Jan.
The Stitch Punk one, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to the date.
Yeah.
They always happen when I'm at the library. So I never get to watch them live. Come on, load.
Yeah.
But I was thinking potentially one thing that might be fun is, let's see. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Excuse me, at 2 p.m. I might be able to be home in time for that. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool maybe if we did a watch party of the textile talk and then we could look at stuff from the exhibit?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to chat. We'll chat after the stream. Okay. Everybody stay tuned for news. Always look for news. Jill posts news about me, about Steph, about her cats, Alrighty. So I think that does it for announcements, other than the fact that don't forget to, if you're interested, tomorrow is Needlework Nights. And we're talking about
tomatoes,
pin cushions, and we've gathered some stuff. I don't know if you noticed stuff, but in the our document there, I exploded a bunch of stuff in there.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I had a note about something I need to find
Yep.
before
Yep.
tomorrow.
So, hi, Jen. Wow. I was all like wondering, like, wow, people will be away for the holiday, and instead people came to hang out with us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Oh, actually, before I get going in my book here, since Steph is looking for something, I did want to let everyone know, I don't know if we've got a lovely Barb Garrett in tonight's audience, but last week she had reached out to Stephanie and I after the stream with some thoughts, and I am sharing them with her permission. Her comments were that we talked about Country Living magazine, and that, you know, Steph's grandmother had some, right? With your grandmother.
Yeah, and I now regret not looking or taking them, you know.
And I had mentioned, you know, seeing some in a shop, and we were talking about how magazines that we're finding that have quilt reference material things in them, the number of magazines we need to be keeping an eye out for are growing. And we had talked about, like, is there a database for that? But anyhow, she writes, Country Living was as valuable to me as Quilter's Newsletter magazine and Quilt magazine. She cut out tons of pictures of quilts to make her quilt picture book. We're gonna have to ask more information about that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, if you got a scrapbook, girlfriend, we need to see it. She said for the last 30 years, the definition for crazy quilts used by Pennsylvania documentation projects is that it's a piecing technique. Then we mark if it's embellished or not, and we list what type of fabric is used: cotton, wool, rayon, corduroy, silk, satin. Off the top of my head, I'm actually not sure what any QM's or Massachusetts documentation does. I'd have to look at that. She said 3, I think cotton crazies circa 1890 are way prettier than satin and silk crazies, which is like, are those fighting words?
I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I kind of have a penchant for those sort of, you know, the cotton and you know, just the random stuff, you know, not the highly curated silks and satins and stuff.
I have to say the ones I like the least are the really, really heavy wool ones.
And I have a couple of those, and they are the worst, and they're moth-eaten.
Yeah, I have a few, and like they're obviously far less decorated, but I mean, man, if you needed to be warm, you know.
Yes, definitely.
So she also says rayon was advertised as artificial silk about 1893. Remember our talk about that? And she said, she pointed out to Stephanie that her cotton cheater fabric, remember that she showed, has been reproduced. Do you have it right there?
And I don't have it with me. I didn't grab it. It's back in its safe fabric vault. But yeah, I did not know that. And so now I'm on the lookout for it. Just, you know,
I mean, have seen it. I have seen it.
Yeah.
I might have some. I should look. I might have it.
Well, and I remember I know you had mentioned a different colorway, and I'm kind of wondering, like, did they make it as a colorway back then, or is it the repro that came in other colorways?
I've seen the repro.
In any event.
Yeah,
in any event, I'm just curious, like, was it an exact replica? Like, who made it? Like, I have all those questions about it. So.
Yeah, I should look for it. We should definitely
yeah.
So she said, you know, cotton cheater print reproduced. She made a doll quilt using it. And she saw it used as the backing of a quilt in the collection of the Landis Valley Museum in Lancaster County. She says, first time I saw that quilt, it was on a roller quilting frame in a parlor of the house, and the hostess commented on the number of visitors who got down on the floor to look at the back of the quilt. She couldn't understand it. She thought the front, mosaic hexagon flowers, was much more interesting, but oh, the opportunity to see the yards and yards of crazy print. Then she said, says, go ahead.
Yeah, that print is so interesting. You know, you look at it, and I'm sure this quilt she's referring to is beautiful. But yes, that crazy print is just so alluring, because it's like a crazy quilt on steroids, I think. Like,
well, and it
it's
almost
got all
makes
the stuff
quilt
in it.
reversible. You know?
Yeah.
And
So
then
I would have definitely been one of those people like down on my hands and knees going like, oh my God, look.
yeah, you would have been like, somebody bring more light. And the
Yeah.
last thing she points out is, remember we were talking about the bags or boxes of scraps that were coming out of Jordan Marsh stores in that advertisement that we were looking at. And she said boxes of scraps. They weren't nicely cut shapes like 5-inch charm packs we were comparing kind of price wise.
Yeah.
She said, I haven't researched the silk satin boxes, but do know that in the 20th century, Sears sold boxes / bags of scraps picked up from the floor of the clothing factories. The scraps could now make them money when sold as quilt fabric bundles.
Yeah, and I think I feel like the way it was described, and I didn't go back and look at the exact wording, but I feel like they almost said as much, like we have all this extra, that it was totally like the cabbage. Like they just swept it all up, weighed it, put it in a bag, and said, here, you know. And I agree with Barb that it wasn't something that was nice.
Jen,
I would be totally surprised if it was.
Jen says she's a high style girl. I feel you, Jen. I feel you. Yes, Dee Marie,
Well,
she has a quilt picture book. I want to see it.
yeah, I want to see it too. And it's funny that, when I read that and she had said her quilt picture book, I have something that a dear friend of ours sent me that it's like a notebook that has all of this stuff written in it, but it also has pages of it's a lot of ladies art company things that this person had cut out and pasted in this notebook.
Like a
And I think
scrapbook.
it's 19. Yeah, it's a 1930 something, but it's almost like it's a wish book back there of like the things they wanted to make, and they pasted in a bunch of stuff. It's really cute. Well, I have, in addition to Barb's comments, I have something to add in that I found out plush is not velvet. Remember I was saying like, oh, it's got to be velvet, right? Like it's no. Plush is actually a different kind of fabric, and they used it in upholstery. They used it in stuffed animals. And I will show you a picture of it. It is what this person is selling on Etsy. It's cotton. I don't know if historically that is what it is, because this person has it listed as vintage and not antique. But I suspect it's the same thing that they're talking about here. So you see, it's kind of like, it's not like the plush faux fur that like we make stuffed animals out of now and other things. It's kind of clumpy, and it sort of looks
It almost
like
kind of looks like crushed velvet.
yeah, it does. It almost looks like an old bath towel that like you washed and you hung outside to dry, and it just kind of clumps up. That's what it looks like to me. And then I saw other listings for vintage plush that did have kind of a sheen to them. So I'm guessing those, like, this is cotton, but I'm guessing that maybe those other plushes might have been like out of a different fiber, and so they have a different look. But it looks like crushed velvet, and I think the reason is it's because the pile is longer than velvet.
Is it possible to zoom in at all?
I think, yeah, that's this.
Wow,
Oh
they
yeah,
really
there we go.
spilled their guts there, huh? Oh, that's better.
Yeah. And because the seller has, I think the seller has it's listed as viscose and cotton.
Oh
And I
yeah,
don't know
that
what is
definitely looks like teddy bear.
yeah, it does. It looks like old antique teddy bear. And I think and the reason why old antique teddy bears look like that is because this is what they're made out of.
Here I was
But
thinking it's because they're old and raggy.
yeah, but so like this color up here, this sort of like Merlot color, I mean, you could see a footstool covered in that,
Sure.
or a chair seat. Yeah. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I think I've seen that stuff like in antique stores and stuff on furniture. And I think I probably looked at it as just like, oh, it's just some ratty ass velvet. But it's not. It is a separate type of fabric.
Yeah, and this host, I never realized when you're making like, stuffed animals that like matted fur was like a look we were going for on purpose.
Well, and isn't that interesting? And not to take us off into a totally other subject, but I have my mom used to make stuffed animals when I was little to sell. And I in my adult years tried some of the old patterns and stuff that she had. And I actually got some vintage, or I was vintage mohair. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh, they've kind of vintaged up this mohair. But I'm like, no, actually, they haven't. This is just what mohair fabric looks like. It just looks ratty, you know? And I think that, we associate like maybe a little threadbare spot on on a toy or something and think like, oh, it's just all totally ratty because it's old, and it's not necessarily. Sometimes the fiber, the fabric, the textile itself was already looked like that, already had that look to it. So
Wow, I guess I'll have to keep that in mind from now on.
yeah. But yeah, I think like what it boils down to is that plush is just a longer pile than velvet. So that's why it gets that crushed, crunched up look. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Alrighty.
So can we talk about some of these things here in this construction section?
Don't jump ahead to that first thing. Don't jump ahead. Anyone who actually did their reading probably knows. But I'm like,
yeah, well, that's not even in the construction section. That's in the motifs.
I know, but honestly, can you remember anything else you read after that spicy piece of news?
Well, I would say this first section on construction, just looking at these different ways that crazy quilts are put together. I guess in my mind, when somebody says crazy quilt, and I mean, I own some, but in my mind, when somebody says crazy quilt, what I see in my mind is the thing that's on this very first section of, that's just what I see in my head.
Yeah, very typical. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I know, and especially based on Penny McMorris's definition, there's lots of different things that constitute crazy quilts according to her definition. So just flipping through here and like looking at these medallions, and I have seen stuff like this in museums. It's just
I have one or two in my collection that are like table toppers, like these are claiming to be.
And that's the other interesting thing. And I think I probably am going to jump way ahead by saying this, but they weren't always baby quilts. I mean, typically these were, they were meant to gussy up the parlor or whatever. And, thrown over a chair, or you throw it over yourself when you take a little nap.
I don't know about you, but I want something way more than this tiny little thing to like nap with.
Right. But I mean, like you said, the wool ones are really heavy. Don't need batting to keep you warm. And then, otherwise it's the kind of thing, honestly, I don't know that I would like, if I was taking a nap, I don't know that I'd want to put it over myself because I want to snuggle up with something soft, but I got it. You could just throw this over yourself.
It's funny if I had one, nap size, which I consider nap size to be like a twin. But if it was made out of like dress silks, I actually would probably snuggle with that because there's something for me that is very soothing about the swishing sound of dress silk.
Okay. And that swish swish annoys me, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not friends anymore.
See, I could live with something that had some velvet or plush in it so that I could snuggle in like.
I don't find that plush to be super snuggly because it looks like a ratty old toy.
It does. It looks like a ratty old bath towel. I don't think
I really like this one on 41 at the bottom left. That's the log cabin. I have to say, I haven't personally come across too many of these style where like the silk's not all just shattered and gone. I really wish though that you could see more close up a lot of these quilts in here. Steph and I were talking before the stream started that you really need like a magnifying glass to really look at a lot of the detail in here.
Oh, well, I just saw, because I think I glossed over this page because I didn't remember reading. So those crest things, those coat of arms things, may have been made from the silk liners found inside men's hats. Well, yesterday on my stream, we looked at a comic strip, and indeed, she talked about derby liners, and I think that's what that is. They're derby liners. See if I can find that. I've shown it on my stream a couple times, but it always makes me laugh when I see it.
I hope nobody minds that I'm like mowing down this smoothie. For anyone that wants to know, this is from Tropical Smoothie Cafe. For me, they originated in the South when I was in grad school, and they were amazing. And they're slowly creeping up north, which is really great. I don't know, Steph, do you have them in Maryland?
Uh, I think it's a tropical near us. I'm not sure. I'm not a smoothie person, so I usually don't pay
Wow,
attention.
more reasons that we're not friends anymore. Like,
Come on, we had a discussion the other day where we're like, we actually disagree on some fundamental things, but we could still be friends and we could still have civilized conversations.
hey, you know
The world,
what?
the world.
These are some things that we can't like get past.
All right, well, let me soothe your anger with this comic strip. So this says, when Mother Was a Girl is the comic strip, Chick Young, and the woman is saying, do you think I ought to ask him, Mother? And Mother says, as long as you're engaged, I guess it will be all right. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my. Oh, Julius, there's something I've been wanting to ask you for so long, but I just can't gain the courage. Aw, come on now, Sophia. You shouldn't be afraid to ask anything of me. Well, I'm making a patch quilt, and I wondered if you would give me your old neckties and derby linings. Because you're like, oh, scandalous. But yeah, so she's asking for this. And it's funny because this is 1929. And according to this book, crazy quilts are long gone by 1929. So it's kind of funny. Like, I guess when like a fad has made it to the comics, is it over or what?
Or maybe they're attempting some kind of resurgence.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was
and
cute.
Where did that come out of?
I have it documented in newspapers.com. I can't remember where I grabbed it from, but I was doing a totally unrelated research, but you use the keyword quilt. Sometimes you're going to get stuff that, it's not your research, but it's about quilts. So you take a look at it just in case. And I found that and I thought, oh, that was great. It's probably been 2 years ago that I found that and I stashed
Well, I
it
was going to
away.
say, and like, just as everything else happens, like once you start looking at something, you find 700 things that relate to other things you were just talking about.
Yep.
It's really creepy. It's creepy. I found this one on the next page, a 42, this what they're calling a strip tile crazy quilt. And this one says the crazy patches in this quilt are appliqued to cream colored strips. The patches appear as tiles with cream grout, embroidered with stars, lines, branches, and feather stitching. In first looking at this, I would not have thought this was a crazy quilt because to me, the fabric in the back, it looks like it's printed. Obviously, we're not close enough to realize that that's appliqued. But I find that very interesting.
If you flip to the quilt previous to that, number 44, it is the same concept. She's referring to them as tile quilts. The other term that's given to them is a cobblestone. And they're sewn together with that little gap. So it looks like mortar or grout or something. I never knew that, especially that one, the 144, it says, the one with Masonic symbols. It does give a range, last quarter of the 19th century. That quilt is in a book I have about cobblestone quilts. And I guess I just never looked that closely to see what date it was.
I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's a fairly famous quilt, I think. But yeah, you're right. Like, is that a form of crazy quilt? Well, yeah.
I just wish we could see it more close up.
Yeah, I really like this one, number 45 on page 42. It's really interesting. There's lots to look at there, but then you've got your eye rust on those two stripes.
Janet said she had to borrow dear husband's magnifying glass for some of these, and I don't have I don't have one, and I really should, because especially when we're looking at some of the tools and you're looking for like maker's marks and things like that. I definitely need to. What I should get like one of those jeweler things that comes over just like one eye, so I can look like a cyborg. Like,
we talked about that.
Can you imagine me like sitting here like that, and I'm like, well, let's just look at here.
Yeah, we talked about that recently. Unfortunately, those are kind of expensive, but I too covet one of those.
Yeah, if anyone knows a company that wants to sponsor us,
we could definitely use one of those jeweler's loop things. So this Amish quilt on the next page, when I read the thing about this where she says the black is actually a slash, a diagonal slash or diagonal stripe through the block, I was like, what? And that's when I got again, magnifying glass. I got my eyeballs up here and I was like, oh my gosh, it is. That's the middle of these blocks is that black. And they match up so perfectly.
Yeah, I did not get a magnifying glass.
Yeah, I mean, to me, looking at this, I'm like, oh, so they made these blocks, right? With these, triangles with the crazy, and then they put those together, and then then they sashed them, right? That is how my mind worked when I first saw this quilt. And then I read the blurb about it. And that is it. Absolutely not what's happening. It's literally like a block that has been bisected by that big wide black piece, and then it makes it look like sashing when it's all put together, but it is put together so meticulously, at least from what I can tell, looking at this. Crazy aside, this is an amazing quilt for that reason, in my opinion.
And to me, very unexpected based on other things you've been looking at, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and also this one's 1930 to 45.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm guessing then, these little bits and pieces of fabric in there are probably, I mean, that's the clothing that Amish colored clothing, their shirts are often these kind of crazy
Pastels.
colors. Yeah. Really well, I mean, not all pastels. I mean, some of them are jewel tones too, but yeah, they love blue. Blue is like, rah rah, Amish love blue. And then, I mean, you could see that like big piece of green, and then there's, brown and gold, and like there's some like kind of pinky salmony orange in there. I mean, those are all colors that they would have made shirts and things out of.
On 44, I'm really upset that we don't have good close-ups of that. We just have close-ups of a couple of blocks. Because there is so much going on. Like, those blocks look pretty small.
Yeah, I think I want to, so it's 85 by 84, so.
Which one are you talking about? I'm talking about number 47 on page 44.
Oh, I thought you said, I thought you said 44. Not page 47, number 44. Or, I'm sorry,
no,
page 44, number 47. Yeah, I was looking the other way. Okay. Disregard. All right, so 47. Yeah. Yes, this one, let's see. Yeah, this one I was like, okay, where's the woman? The woman in the spider web is in that block, that first block down below the detail.
Yeah, it's that hand coming out of the spider web.
Well, no, there's like, you can.
What?
Yeah, it's not a hand, it's like a woman laying back.
It is?
I
thought it said it was a hand.
No, it says a wonderfully bizarre scene of a spider web in which the woman dangles upside down. I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
All right, I definitely need a magnifying glass then, because
I know.
It looks like a creepy witch's hand.
Yeah, it kind of bums me out that, I mean, and I understand, editors and book publishers have to make decisions, but I'm kind of like, why would you put the ones that are so detailed? Why would you make it smaller? And I mean, there's probably lots of reasons for that. Like the quilt on the facing page has lots of fun stuff to look at, but not these little images. So if that one could have been,
yeah, it probably had to do with resolution. Probably. But yeah, that would definitely be a reason for a magnifying glass. And that's one thing that I really enjoy about Crazies is if you had this quilt here on page 44, you could pull this thing out 100 times and see something new every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have one crazy quilt that's got like a lot of embroidery and stuff on it, and every time I pull it out, I find new things that I hadn't noticed before. Yeah, see, Janet agrees. She would want these two photos on adjoining pages switched. Yeah. Yeah. We can write a letter. So the one on the next page, the hexagons, So the one at the top, quilt number 49. I mean, that's crazy. That's got a lot going on, and it has
That one looks like a magic eye. Remember those things from like the
yes,
90s?
yes. Yeah, you really do have to kind of like relax your eyes to be able to see the star. You know, it's
Hmm.
a six-pointed star.
The stars, though, on page 47, quilt number 51, those stars are really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When those are just plain pieced blocks, you know? I get the fact that this is a crazy quilt because it's got crazy stuff going on behind those stars, but I think I
Mhm.
probably would have looked at this and not thought crazy quilt, even though it is clearly a crazy quilt.
Really, I think I would have seen the crazy first on the stars secondary.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it looks, let's see, does it say? Does it say the star part almost, it looks like applique on to me. Doesn't say though.
Yeah, some of these it's hard to tell. And as far as looking at actual crazy quilts, um, it would make sense to me if I were making a crazy quilt to, kind of do it like foundation piecing, like, and to do the seams and flip them over. But that's generally not how they did crazy quilts. They turned and they might overlap pieces of fabric, but they turned the seam allowance under. And so I'm kind of wondering, I mean, you're right. I think this could have been applique down, but I also could have see that they just turned it under and then just kind of tucked the crazy pieces and underneath. I don't know. I think there's probably a million different ways that they.
well, that, and like we probably won't know without seeing it up close, or
Yeah, for sure.
in another book with more detailed shots or information. Um,
Um,
the quilt on 48
oh my gosh, I love this quilt. It's so
is
pretty. I love the
it's
pink.
very interesting.
And I mean, that's assuming that this sort of pinky lavendery color is like original. I don't know. But as it is right now, that color with the black and those kind of earthy tones, oh my gosh, it is stunning.
And to me, this doesn't immediately scream crazy quilt.
Right. Yeah, like I see so on the facing page, that star, I guess up close, I probably would have noticed the craziness about the star. Um, maybe more readily if I was standing in front of the quilt, but looking at the looking at it on the page, I see those round bits. You're showing the other picture. You
I
weren't
meant
showing the
to.
detail. Okay. I
I
wasn't
showed
sure
the
if you were
other.
trying to show the detail.
No, I was showing a comparison.
Yeah.
The it's funny. I don't even immediately see stars in your pink and
Mhm.
black quilt here. I have to kind of like look away. I immediately see the spoke, but
That's
no,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I see first, the
yeah.
spokes. Mhm.
Whereas compared to the other page, that those stars remind me of well, not even stars, they remind me of poinsettia flowers.
Mhm.
Um, but it's funny too. I the juxtaposition, I really hate that word, but I love it too. Um, the of these two different kinds of like star type
Mhm.
things in the same kind of application of a crazy quilt, you couldn't possibly be any different. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so the pink and black one, that looks completely planned. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, like the points of the star are crazy, but it looks very planned. Whereas this other one, I think the red stars are planned, but it looks to me like so these fans, little blue and gold fans, and then there's like these pink and blue and pink and green pieces. To me, that what it looks like to me is they started making a different quilt and went like, I don't know, like maybe they were extra pieces or something. I don't know. That's what that looks like
Or
to
they were
me.
just like, I hate this. What
Yeah.
can I applique over it to make it better?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But I really like those two quilts. Obviously
Mhm.
the
I
the
really
pink and
love the
black one a
red
little bit more.
poinsettia one.
Mhm.
The pink and black is very visually interesting. Oh, the next page.
Are we ready to talk about Mrs. Bliss?
Oh my goodness, Mrs. Bliss. Now I'm gonna tell you, after reading this little blurb here, and we're talking about this lady with all her
Yes, this is page 50.
taxidermy.
So
So go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, this was probably back in the fall, maybe. I picked up a few things from an auction and it was an estate sale. So they did two separate auctions and I won things in both auctions. So I had to go to this house twice. It was the most bizarre house I've ever been in. The way it was almost like a compound. It was so strange. But you walk into this like one main room and it's got really high ceilings and there were mounted deer heads like all the way around. And I was just like, and they told me they're like, those are staying in the family. It's like, oh, oh my God.
You know, somehow
See,
that's
those
not
would have been the ones I would have.
but that's not a worse story.
No, it is not a worse story. I'm just saying, walking into a room with a lot of stuffed animals like that looking at you is very unnerving.
Well, at least those ones were up high. These ones are down low.
Well, just being crowded around, like
Well,
it's
and
one
this
thing if you're in a museum and they're like,
and this lady's crowded. Like the deer head sitting next to her looks like her boyfriend. Like the way it's there. So the little blurb here for anyone that's not following in the book says Mrs. L.W. Bliss and animals she mounted in her home in Crandon, Wisconsin, circa 1900. Imagine how great a task stuffing a peacock would be with that great tail of feathers to wrestle with. From the looks of this living room scene, no animal was safe in the vicinity of Mrs. Bliss's home in Crandon. Dare we wonder what happened to Mr. Bliss? And then I'm looking at this and I was like, um, you know, could she not convince any animal to be her friend? So she had to like force an animal to be her friend?
I mean, I see there's an owl, a possum, a rabbit, a raccoon, some sort of duck, I think.
A seagull,
Um,
a crane.
a seagull, I think that's an egret, but same thing, same kind of. And then we've got the peacock and the deer, and then there's a squirrel, and I don't even know what all is back there on the back.
There's
Another
there's there's
owl,
like a couple, yeah, there's another kind of bird, some other kind
a
of bird. There's
hawk,
like I see
maybe.
like a pigeon all the way in the back.
Do you think
Um,
they gathered them for the photo? My guess is yes, but then again, I don't know. Living in a house that is pre-Victorian, my rooms are small. So this might have been this lady's like animal room. I don't know. Um,
well, and we saw from some of the other like photos in here of living rooms is like it wasn't all about minimalism back then. Jen thinks it's staged, but still can't be unseen.
oh, well, but the better part is that she did these herself. Not only did she have these in her house, but she did them herself. And I will tell you guys, my son is interested in taxidermy from an artistic perspective. So when he was probably about 17, I gifted him with a taxidermy class at this place in Baltimore. And they could choose between like a rat and a mole. But the process involved in taxidermy it's kind of gross.
Oh,
Like
only
it's
kind
kind
of.
of gross. And they always tell you like if you're gonna like if you've ever torn down a chicken, like gotten a fryer and like broken it down, like it's no different than that. And I'm like, yeah, it is. You gotta peel skin off. No, it's ugh. Um, so just the fact that this lady did not one taxidermy, but very, very many, just like Grandma Bliss needs to keep her distance.
Well, and half of me is like, should you like maybe do some genealogy on girlfriend here to find out what happened to her husband?
Yeah, maybe we should. So, ranch owned by Mr. Bollock in northern New Mexico, polar bears, walrus, deer, elephant footstools, yeah, water buffalo, grizzly bears. Yes, that stuff is so like, I don't know, like Victorian slash Teddy Roosevelt kind of big game hunter sort of, it's like that whole time period was just rife with this kind of stuff.
Well, and not to mention that the story gets better on the next page.
Oh yeah, it sure does.
So
Let's not wait any further.
yeah, so if having all of these creatures stuffed in your living room wasn't your thing, you could stuff them and apply them as embellishment to your crazy quilt. When I read this, I had texted Stephanie and been like, did you do your reading yet? Because I really needed to like kibitz with someone. And of course, she was in a meeting. But this quilt on page 51, Crazy Quilt by Mrs. David McWilliams, circa 1882. Mrs. McWilliams made this quilt for a raffle held in 1882 to benefit the Malamphy hospital. Typical fans and flowers appear on this quilt. Da-di-da, you know. But they were obviously not enough for Mrs. McWilliams, who added 2 taxidermically stuffed chipmunks at the bottom to give her quilt that unique finishing touch. You know, she needed some pizzazz. You know, she needed some literal jazz hands. Like,
what I don't understand, Mrs. McWilliams is making her quilt and she's like, okay, I've got the fans and I've got lots of embroidery. What is missing here? I mean, it's pretty crazy. Now this is going for benefit a hospital. Why would I put 2 dead chipmunks on it?
Janet said it's Chippendale. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the detail. Because to be honest with you, from this picture, they don't look like, if you didn't tell me they were taxidermy. Let's see, am I going?
Well, I think I really would not have noticed them until, you know, I saw the picture and I think I would have been like, oh my gosh, those are amazingly stitched. Like I don't understand. Like, why would you put dead animals on a quilt? Like, well, literal dead animals.
They look like they're like not fully stuffed, like they're kind of like half stuffed.
They're like a little roadkilly. Yeah.
Oh man. Do you think that's where she got them?
Oh, no. I'll be honest, I've never seen a chipmunk roadkill. She's
like, David, come here. Like, Roger ran over some chipmunks in the front yard. Could you go scrape those up? I'll put them on this quilt.
Here's a shovel. Well, so this is 1882. So my guess is the horse and buggies were not like murdering chipmunks. So somehow these chipmunks were captured.
And you know how hard it is to capture a chipmunk?
Right? Yeah, I couldn't get over this. So when I read this, I was like, okay. I don't know about it.
I'm literally like reading. I'm like, what? And then what?
Well, and you know, in talking about like the narrative underneath Motifs, where they talk about, you know, people, woman wrote of preserving friends and family, such as the faithful old Carlos the dog and the gleeful warbler Dicky. You know, I mean, you hear about today, there are taxidermists that do pet preservation, you know, to help grieving pet parents, but that really does go back very long. That people did do that and, you know, preserve their pets. The problem with Victorian taxidermy, aside from the fact that it used like dangerous stuff like arsenic and lead, or I guess it's arsenic, it's not very good sometimes. Like, if you've ever been to the Smithsonian, they have a lot of taxidermied stuff there. You know, and at one time they had a bunch of it displayed, and I was like, and they literally have on the little captions like very bad Victorian taxidermy. It's like, why do you display this stuff? But I mean, it's the point that it wasn't always super good. And the fact that they put them in their hats too. I mean, we always knew about that. Yeah. I think that's described I have to say, further down.
One thing that I'm glad about is that like these chipmunks are just one tiny little thing. Could you imagine like a crazy quilt where like they applicate like a big like bearskin rug on top of it?
So my mom's good friend.
Oh no.
Her husband shot a bear. And this is when I was like probably an infant. And I remember spending a lot of time at their house, and they had a bearskin rug, and it was heavy as hell. That thing was crazy big and heavy. So yes, I can imagine some crazy Victorian person stitching a skin on, but I don't know that it would be a bear skin because that's really big and heavy.
You wake up and you like pull the covers up to snuggle, and it's just like this big bear head right there.
I remember I used to rub his ears.
Wow, you're revealing a lot of things this evening. A lot of things.
Let's move on to this quilt, which is fabulous. I like this one because of just the sheer volume of imaginative and not real animals.
You love the kitty up in the left-hand corner.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they did these because there's another quilt I think further on where, they're not, I mean, they're appliques, right? But they're not like, I don't quite understand how they did these because they're almost like they're baggy. Like
Mhm.
maybe they were stuffed. I mean, maybe that's the thing, they originally stuffed and that stuffing is compressed or something. So they look, I mean, these three examples that they've pulled out, they just have like a, I don't know. I don't
They
have a word
almost
for the
look like they're
quality.
made with that plush stuff, kind of.
Yes, yes. Definitely. Like the cat stripes, the cat itself. But yeah,
Mhm.
especially the cat stripes are very plush looking. But yeah, there's just something about them. They're sort of squishy and I don't know. After looking
Yeah,
at dead chipmunks,
they
like
look billowy, like there was
yeah,
something in there
yeah,
gathered.
yeah, 3D effect, yeah.
And
Um,
what's interesting, so this quilt is courtesy of America Hurrah Antiques, which is so that's a quilt dealer in New York.
mhm.
I don't know if there's still a thing though.
I've heard of them before. I've never
Oh yeah,
researched them though.
there's stuff in
Mhm.
books all the time. I just don't know if they're still actively
Mhm.
dealing and if this was a quilt in their inventory or in their collection.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this one's pretty delightful though. I really like this one.
I really like the flowered border on it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, like, is that embroidered or is that no? Those are three-dimensional flowers.
Janet pointed out it's a 3D effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But can you
that and
imagine
it
how
means
heavy
these
this quilt
creatures.
is?
Yeah, it also means these creatures are really like furry and pettable.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I gotta go pet Scooter on my quilt.
As long as scooters pretend, not roadkill. Um, I thought it was interesting. So
Can
the
you imagine?
peacocks.
I'm thinking about those fidget quilts that people make of, like tactile sketches. Oh my God, I snorted.
God. Oh my God. Um, moving on to the peacocks.
Wait, why do so many things in the Victorian period have to be gross?
Yeah, I mean, why indeed? Um, yeah, Kate, I think you're right. They are on like a silk, like a dupioni or a shantung. Yeah. Um, but yeah, why indeed? Because the Victorians loved unique and bizarre. And what is more unique and bizarre than dead animals stitched to a quilt?
I mean, I'd
Um,
say probably more bizarre would be like humans. And I think of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers type stuff. Although, I mean, moving ahead, there's a pretty creepy quilt in here with a human face on it.
oh, we'll get there.
Yeah, did that one creep you out
Um,
too?
yes, but I think I have a trade card that's very similar to like a head coming through.
Oh.
And I've thought about it and I was like, oh, what did I do with it? Because I have it here somewhere. I thought it was right there, but yeah, I think it's packed away in
Well,
my
I mean,
needlework
we're
stuff.
not going to be able to talk about every single page in here, so I definitely think we
Right.
need to talk about the page of cats.
Okay. One thing I was just going to say about the peacocks is she mentioned that they typically have the peacock with the tail trailing down and not
Oh, out
the
in
fan.
plumage. Yeah.
It's the, and thinking about like chintzes and stuff, they typically the peacocks are shown that way with the
Mhm.
their tails down. Um I just thought that was interesting. That was an interesting observation. I never, it never occurred to me, but yeah, you typically do see them with that plumage hanging down. And
Mhm.
also, there's always been this thing about, whether peacock feathers in your house are good luck or bad luck. My grandmother
Hmm.
had them. Um, But I've also heard people say like having the peacock feathers, it's the eye and all that stuff. And I don't know.
Oh,
Wondering, has anybody ever heard that before?
like the evil eye? It's like the evil eye kind of.
Well, and the thing is, the eye, like the eye image, right? I have it on my wrist. It's supposed to be like that's deflecting the evil eye, like the eye. But and that's what's on a peacock feather. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Peacocks may be easier to do to yeah. To let yes to do with their tails down. I think so. All right, let's talk about these really weird looking cats.
On 57. It's so funny. This ad in here for 1,700 illustrations is
Our
from
catalog.
yeah, the advertising play on words here is cute. This J.F. Ingalls Company in Lynn, Massachusetts, really makes me wonder if there's remnants of that company, in the historical society or something.
Oh yeah.
To have this stuff, and like also in their ad with like our cat. Their cat is such a distinguished gentleman.
I just think it's a weird looking cat. Like
I know, but like he's wearing like, like a bow tie,
he's got a little
and
bell. Little
yeah,
bell.
like he's so distinguished. It also semi looks like a wanted poster. Doesn't it, like
As
wanted
it should.
for
As it should.
stealing all the food after eating too much catnip?
I think the font our cat is kind of got that wanted poster look to it.
And then
Okay.
these other ones, he's like this painted cat head that was
That
on a
was a little
previous
spooky
book.
looking.
It is a little spooky. Yeah, it's definitely got the spook. The crazy quilt on 59 with the prairie point. That
Yeah,
is
that one is
really cool.
Was that those aren't prairie points. That's crocheted edging, isn't it?
Yes, it just looks like prairie points. You're right. No, it looks like maybe lace. Is it lace?
Yeah, it's like a crocheted lace. Yeah, fans. And I like what they've done here because it's in terms of design, the fans being consistent with the crazy stuff around them, I think is really effective.
That, and it gives that look of what's this pattern called if it was just the fans?
Grandmother's fan?
No. Like
Well, if it's Drunkard's Path will create this too, or
but when
something
it
like that.
does,
It's
it's
called like,
called something else.
yeah, it's called like a snail trail rattlesnake, or it's
Yeah,
something
something like
trail.
that. Yeah,
Like,
something like
yeah.
that. Because you know what this reminds me of is that quilt that I recently got in auction, that yellow and white.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, Drunkard's Path.
I like it when I like the ones where they do, some crazy with some controlled. And I don't know, that black and red's
Yeah.
just really sexy.
Well, the thing is, like, to do a true crazy kind of thing is difficult to be completely like random. But sometimes random chaos, like you have to have something that contains it in some way. Um, and sometimes that's just with your colors, maybe with your border, your binding, like that kind of thing. But I think the ones that are really effective do have this, whether it's the medallion in the center or the piecing or something that makes it like it contains the crazy and it's more striking visually. And they do that. Um, I just didn't realize how popular fans were. Like, I mean, I knew, but I didn't really know. And so on what page is this? 60. I really love what they did. So the top right-hand corner, the painted pieced and appliqued fans. So there's the two that are like the paddle fans, and then the other one is like the more traditional folded fan. I just think it's really lovely what they did. They've got the lace around it and all the embroidery, and it's just nice looking.
Janet
And
said
usually all that
maybe
lace and floof is like, but these are really cool.
Janet said maybe it's an evolution of the crazy quilt by adding traditional parts.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think we continue to see that throughout this book that you know, there's stuff that's like these traditional blocks. And so you kind of wonder, did they do that to fill space? Did they do that because they were already making a quilt and then decided to go crazy? Like, you know, or did they just say, here's how I want to design my crazy quilt and it's going to have these traditional parts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that if I was around in this period and I made a crazy quilt, I'd just fly by the seat of my pants.
And I think that's what a lot of people did. And but I think that like it does show, and not to say like not to be disparaging, but it kind of shows like when there was no plan and it was just like I'm going to keep reaching into the scrap bag. I mean, think about improv today. Look at modern improv. You see some that are just like they're just really well planned. Like yes, it's improv, yes, it's random, but they do things to again encapsulate the craziness in some way. And then those are going to be more effective than somebody who's just literally randomly pulling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one in 62 where they use fans as the corners. That's very pretty. And I love this horseshoe. It kind of looks like it's almost like vine work on it, but I'm really
Yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
like the colors and um everything on this one. And
Yeah,
just
and I think so much of that stuff
having
they
the
got
thing.
yeah, they I mean they traced stuff to get
Mm-mm.
those things. And did you notice down in the bottom right hand corner there's a an ostrich?
That's an ostrich.
I think so, yeah.
Kind of looks like a crane flamingo-y thing. I guess it could be an ostrich, yeah.
Oh, it kind of does have a long beak. I looked at it
Yeah.
earlier. I thought it was an ostrich, but I think you're right. It might be a crane. Well, nonetheless, they loved birds. We've established that. They made fans out of birds. We didn't talk about
So
that. That's
Janet
just too
pointed out
creepy.
that the horseshoe's upside down and all the luck falls out. Interesting.
Yeah, you know, yes, that is definitely a superstition about horseshoes, about whether a horseshoe just by itself just represents luck, or does it have to be correctly faced with the points up?
Hmm.
I always like I'm of a superstitious nature that every time I see a horseshoe like that, I do think about that. So
Oh,
Janet,
I
great minds think alike.
that had never crossed my mind.
Yeah, I mean it's supposed to be good luck, but
All right, can we talk about the one on 65?
yes, the
Like,
creepy lady.
yeah, it's really, I don't even, is it a lady? I mean, I don't, not that it matters. It's just, it is
Yeah, I want to
crazy.
say, didn't say um the guess is that it's actress Anna Held. Possibly
Oh
she was
yeah, that's
featured
right.
on a
That's
cigarette
right. That's
premium.
right.
Yeah, so I'm 90% sure, and I saw this as a trade card, and I'm pretty sure I have one. So yeah, I think her image was used. But I personally like the postcard on the facing page that says, I'm making a crazy quilt and I want your face in the center.
Yeah.
Bazinga.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, the way that this like this photography or whatever is done,
Well,
it
it's,
just looks
I
so,
want to say it's supposed to look like she's peeking through like something that's been ripped. Like
it
it's
looks like
some,
she's peeking through my soul. Okay. Like, hey Robin.
she does it. Yeah, it is pretty super creepy. Robin, hanging lamp made from horseshoes. Yep. Yep. See, so that's a common thing about horseshoes, if you didn't know it.
I guess I didn't know it.
Okay, so
Speaking of like luck, it would be really good luck if everyone made sure to like hit the thumbs up on the video. Thanks.
like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really good luck for people like us that are hoping we can make money out of this so we can keep doing it.
so on pages 66 and 67, I also absolutely love this quilt. And I've seen
Which
this
we've
one
seen
before.
multiple times.
Yes. This one, it kind of reminds me of those plush animals, but this one, like literally the shirts and like the baby's christening gown, like this stuff is literally like draped and made to look like clothing
Mm-hmm.
of the day. And I think that's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, the kind of skill to do that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, because
I don't have that skill. Let's just put that out there.
well, my inkling would be to look at a picture and then draw it as applique, but you know, it would be flat. And like maybe I would fussy cut some stuff to be like striped shirt or whatever. But I mean, they've literally taken pieces of fabric and like, you know, draped and gathered it to look like skirts and those
Mm-hmm.
giant sleeves or
Mm-hmm.
those like a mutton sleeves.
Yep.
Um, what date did they get this? 1898. Yeah, that's about right for like a mutton sleeves. Um, oh, this one was American Hurrah Antiques too.
Yep.
How about on the next page, the John L. Sullivan quilt? Was he not a fancy man?
I don't like his chest hair pattern.
So this, like all that he's missing is like a pipe. He totally looks like just that I don't know, that trope of like you know, the weightlifter, like he should have two dumbbells and he's
Mm-hmm.
you know, we only see him from the waist up, but on the waist down, he's wearing some tight, weird jodhpurs and some those strange like wrestling shoes they wore back then. And he's not really in shape. He's kind of got a dad bod. Like I don't think like these welterweight bare knuckle boxers or heavyweight bare knuckle boxers necessarily like look ripped like we see athletes today. I mean think about oh gosh, I keep thinking oh gosh, there's a book I read that I'm thinking of, but no, I'm thinking about the Sherlock Holmes movie with uh Robert Downey Jr., where he
Mm-hmm.
plays Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a scene in there where there's like a bare knuckle fighter situation he finds himself in or whatever. And that's what this guy reminds me of like those kind of people that are like, ah, I'm gonna sock you, matey. He just cracked me up.
I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit here because we have such a warm and friendly reminder of things past. The
Mhm.
Patchwork Girl of Oz, which if you were around watching Mary's original Quilt Nerd, there's reruns on YouTube. We watched this movie. It was a silent movie, right? Um,
I actually was not there for that one.
oh well, you're fired. So we watched this, and it's the most terrifying movie I've ever seen in
Well,
my life.
the live doll is really disturbing.
Yeah. Even
Like its coat is kind of cool, but whatever it's got on its head and its weird
yeah,
head under there.
the
Ooh.
face is bizarre looking. Um, yes, it's absolutely terrifying.
Um, Above it though, I like the little story of the little girl, or this little girl shown. It's not her, I guess, that the quote comes from, but the quote from a young girl said, Mama made me get my crazy quilt out and embroider on it all morning because she wanted to keep me busy and it was all I could do.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot to me that if children were given some of this work, I mean, I think about the crazy quilt I have that has the most stuff on it. There's some really beautiful work on there. And at first I had thought it was those, I think I mentioned this last week. I thought it was like those machine done slips. But once I really, really looked, I was like, this is just really good embroidery. And then, but then I found other things in there that like, what in the hell is this? It's like this bizarre head with a giant nose sniffing a flower. I was like, this was not done by the same needleworker. Those are the kind of things that like I really do think could be, you know, made by children, you know, and
Um,
it was either the child's quilt in the first place or they were like, it's just a small weird thing. That's fine.
well, even getting like on the next page here where they start talking about Kate
Kate
Greenaway,
Greenway. Hmm.
um, and how a lot of her illustrations for children's books found its
Yeah.
way into the crazy quilt craze, and even this
Yeah.
little embroidered child on the bottom. I mean,
Hmm.
that looks to me like it could be done by a kid. It's
Yeah.
incredibly
Hmm.
sophisticated in its execution. You
Hmm.
know, I could see where maybe that's, done
Yeah.
by a child.
Hmm. I actually have quite a bit of Kate Greenaway stuff on my crazy quilt, my big one.
Mm-hmm.
There's like all around the border are a bunch of different, and they're all different sizes. And I think, I can't remember if she had said this earlier in the book, that because people would often trace designs, you know, they either had different embroideries that they were all tracing, or, you know, they're seeing things in magazines or whatever and they trace it. You could have something like gigantic and then have little teeny. And it's just because they maybe didn't have the skill to enlarge or shrink things down. So
Mhm.
they just trace them as is.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and then as we kind of wrap up here and we're looking at crazy quilts based on places,
Yeah.
which this is somewhat of a new genre for me. I haven't really been introduced to this genre, but like you've got one
Yeah.
here.
So, right, the railroad one.
I was actually gonna go one step beyond and do that one.
Okay, the railroad one was like kind of my favorite because I was
Oh,
like,
was it?
yeah, I've never seen that one. And yeah, it's a crazy quilt for sure. But it's also like you clear, like as soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is a map. And then when I got close, I was like, oh, it's a map of New Jersey. It says they're all cities in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I was really taken with that one. I thought that one was really cool. But yeah, on the next page,
The city
and
hall
you
is
know,
interesting.
yeah, it's that idea, I guess, of like that's the medallion, this place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I read this one in depth, the two captions on these two other quotes.
Yeah, it's Monroeville Town Hall quilt from Monroeville, Ohio, 1888.
Hmm.
It originated as a charity fundraiser for a group of women. Um, that I will say, like that, the detail on that town hall, though, that block is really done really well.
Yeah, and you know, I was just thinking because I didn't read I didn't read these captions. I just realized I don't know that I've ever seen a crazy quilt that was made as a fundraiser. I mean, you've got these, you know, names in here.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen
I don't know
names
that I
on,
have either.
yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen names on crazy quilts, but
Mhm.
not like as a fundraiser. That's interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know that I have.
Yeah, and then the very last quilt, I know she says this one's a stretch for it to really be a crazy quilt, but I've seen this one before and I love it. It's just one of those ones that's just got so much crap in it. You're like, I don't know what to look at first.
I mean, it definitely has crazy blocks.
Yeah, I mean, it has those little pieces of crazy in it. And
Yeah.
just I think the way that it's the way it's built. It's
It's
just
very I would probably call it like a crazy pictorial or
it's a
something.
pictorial quilt, yeah. Yeah, crazy pictorial. That sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty bananas. It definitely has a lot of crazy motif in it. Like the
mhm.
embroidered flowers. Um got lots of and all the animals and wow, on the bottom left-hand corner there, that riverboat is bananas.
Yeah, the riverboat. Yeah, and then above it are those are like horse like a they're it's like a horse, it's a person on a horse, I guess they're rounding up cattle or
Well,
steer. They look like
yeah,
steers, right?
yeah.
Yeah, there's so much
There's
stuff going on in
there's
this
even
quilt.
some giraffes. Um,
Where? Okay, I've missed the giraffe. Where's that?
the giraffe is a keep going up above the steer.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now this says it's in the collection of the Hagen Museum in California, so potentially we could look at this one up,
Hmm.
and maybe get
Yeah,
some
I know I've
they
seen it
still have it
before, in some
in
other
another
book.
book.
Yeah, I think it's probably because I have a couple of pictorial quilt books, and I want to say it's in one
Mhm.
of those. Um, you know what? I just thought of the quilt that I saw when I was at Leah Zeber's retreat in
Mhm.
Temecula. I don't know if Arlene, if you're still here, but there is a crazy quilt that the story of it, it's kind of bounced around. I want to say at some point Julie Silber had it. I want to say Rod Karakoff was like the original finder of the quilt, I think.
Mhm.
But it is a really, really really fantastic crazy quilt, like more in the line of what you traditionally think of as crazy quilts. I took a few pictures, but I can't show them because I don't think that we were authorized to.
Sure,
But
sure.
it was in such pristine condition. And yeah, I mean, I'm always marveling at things when I see those things. And yeah, I don't know. Arlene may not still be here, may not be able to type in the but it's just that I just thought of that.
Mhm.
And it had a lot of these kind of motifs that we've talked about, like the bugs and the
Oh,
animals
Arlene's
and
here. She
oh,
didn't see
oh, you
it.
didn't see it. Ah, yeah. And I'm trying to remember who has, well, I do know who has it now, and I don't know that I should reveal these things because, but I do know that the museum is supposed to be going to the International Quilt Museum. So I
Okay.
don't know when. I know there, there all the acquisition activities. I'm not sure how, like, when that takes place and stuff, but I think it's feasible that we will one day be able to see this quilt at the New England Quilt or
You know,
the International Quilt Museum. So
it's funny because there was the first day that I had volunteered to help with quilt documentation because someone was sick. They had a crazy quilt come in that was also in pristine condition and had the corner bed cutouts, which
oh,
is pretty rare to have. And
mhm.
it was probably the only time maybe in my whole life that I was ever going to see Pam Weeks light up at the thought of getting a crazy quilt in the collection. Um and I could tell she wanted it bad. I don't know that those ladies will donate to the museum, but who knows? Maybe even the New England Quilt Museum is going to have a new acquisition at some point.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess could you quickly talk about that, because I think there's cases where people end up with crazy quilts and they assume, if they don't know anything about quilting, or I think even if they are quilters, they kind of assume that there's something like so special about crazy quilts, and there really isn't. What would be
yeah.
special about a crazy quilt is something that's in a very, very, very fine condition, because we know the silk's often shattered if they,
Mhm.
if they were cheaply made. And then, if there were original designs, original embroideries, I think that's probably more interesting than, say, something you're obviously like, oh, these are a bunch of Kate Greenaway things that they traced. I don't know, like, what the theory on, like, what makes a valuable crazy quilt versus like a,
Well, some of what you're asking is definitely a question for an appraiser
mhm,
because valuable to a museum isn't necessarily the same as monetarily valuable. But I will say,
right,
like in general, people always think if they've got a crazy quilt that they have something worth a crap ton of money because they
yeah,
see handwork.
right,
So they like automatically assume. And yeah, you're often gonna find, split seams. The velvet is, I don't know, what's the word for like when the velvet is like bald? Is there a word for that?
deep the deferred velvet. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like
It's just with the
um
plush. The pile is gone. The
yeah,
pile
you
has
you, you
been.
find a lot of that. The silks are obviously shattered. If, especially in those cases where you're mixing a ton of different kinds of fabrics, you've got moth-eaten wool and things like that. So I will tell you, like, the the reason this one was so interesting is it had the
The
cutouts. It had
cutout.
the
Yeah.
poster cutout. It also had a really long drop. And was in pristine condition. So
Hmm.
usually people start to get really excited when they have names on it that are traceable to things and places.
Right. Yeah.
I know that there was one that we were talking about that I believe was um linked to a presidential race. It had like the two, whoever the running mates were at the time, something like that.
Hmm.
Um if people are putting in centennial fabric,
Yeah. The
things become more
centennials.
interesting. I'd have to say it really depends. It because there's no two are alike, so we can
Right.
definitely agree to that. Like no two are alike.
Yeah.
But then it really comes down to the details in their unalikeness. Because even though no
Hmm.
two are alike, they can still have a lot of like items.
Yeah. And that's
And
why I gave the Kate Greenaway
yeah.
example of that. Like that's kind of ubiquitous. And again, if you think about put it in today's terms of like, a stunning show quilt that somebody has densely quilted and it's just, beautiful versus one that somebody like stack and whacked and, threw together and did some like real basic quilting on it. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're both handmade, but this one stands the test of time design wise.
So Arlene says, I have one appraised that was 1883, pristine condition, very well preserved by the family and had provenance. It's currently at the Pasadena Museum of History. They actually have several great crazy quilts. Well, Arlene,
Nice.
like, if you know, or like if you've got photos of that thing or can send us to the link at the museum, like we could be showing,
Yeah.
a quilt that you donated. That would be really cool to talk about on here and share your legacy at the museum.
Well, she appraised it. So that may not be something that she had in her possession terribly long, if at
Why
all.
can't my brain comprehend words this evening? You know what? I'm so traumatized by dead chipmunks on your quilt that like I just can't like.
You know what? I'm gonna have to incorporate some chipmunks on my next quilt. They will not be real. They will have never been alive. They will definitely be fake chipmunks.
Yeah, Arlene, I clearly glossed over the whole thing where you're not the one that donated it. Just
Yeah. But we can look for it. We can see if maybe they have. I don't know if I've ever looked at the Pasadena Museum of History, their website, but we can see if they have stuff that is available. But so when we're obviously going to look at the stuff at the New England Quilt Museum at the
Mhm.
end of this book, but I also have pictures of my own crazy quilts, which are, nothing to write home about. But also I have pictures from the Maryland Center for History and Culture. They're some of their crazy quilts, which as you were talking through like what kind of makes like a museum interested in a crazy quilt, I do know that the ones that the Maryland Center for History and Culture has, they're very specific to places in Maryland, people in Maryland. Like one was I don't know, I can't remember. It wasn't a governor, but it was somebody important in Maryland. Like this quilt was made for him as like a presentation quilt. And so that was kind of as I remember looking at those things and thinking, well, these are just really stunning examples. Obviously, they're in good condition, but I could see they have this one because this guy's name is on it. Like,
Mhm.
it's where it came from and you know who it was for. So
Yeah, like if someone unearthed a crazy quilt, with like I mean, I know it's mostly the US, but they talk about how this craze went over into like England and stuff. If you had
mhm.
one, signed by Queen Victoria, like, you know what I mean, that would probably become like the world's most sought after crazy quilts. And I will say that is one nice thing I like is that they do often tend to have a date on them. Even if it's not exactly the date it was made, it's usually around, especially if they were working on it multi-year, but um and they often have names, initials, and things like that. I don't know why when they stopped doing crazy quilts, they were like, psh, never mind that dating and naming stuff. Like,
Well, people who hated crazy quilts must have been like, they're so bad because they've got names and initials.
oh, Arlene said you can Google Pasadena Museum of History community stitches. Leah and I
Ooh,
curated it.
oh, cool. Yeah, we'll look at that.
That's really cool. I'm like, I love to be a cheerleader for my friends. Um,
Well, I would look at it, but I can't get my mouse to work. Oh, here we go. Having some technology problems today, y'all.
that's all right. I'm having mouth problems, apparently. I can't comprehend any words. Did you find it?
Yeah, I'm Googling it right now.
Google Google.
Ooh, it looks like a cool museum. It's like in one of those old mansions that's very, very California.
Oh, I wouldn't know. I've never been to California.
Well, like old Hollywood. Uh, hmm. Yeah, Oh,
She
let's
said
see.
there's
Is there?
a cool crazy quilt on the initial page. It's a honeybee block with tons of
Yeah.
signatures.
Yeah, I found it. Here, let me share real
Sh-
quick.
I was gonna say, share your screen, girlfriend.
Yeah, look at
Oh
that.
my, yeah.
Oh, and look, this has a bunch of names in it too. So I'm wondering, are these just names or was this some type of quilt that was um like a fundraiser? Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh gosh, look at that. Guest curator Arlene Stevens.
Yay.
Ah, and there's our friend Leah's name. Okay. Let me share the link with this with
Oh,
everybody
and
so
this
we can
was
all
only
look at it.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
definitely
for sharing that with us, Arlene. That's awesome.
and
We'll
hold
definitely
on
look
to
at that in
that
more
link
detail.
for me, Steph, and I'll put it into the
Mhm.
just
Oh, in the
showing.
notes, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say just
Yep.
showing all our back end stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I forgot I was sharing. You can see our back end, but we don't have anything secret there, do we?
Let's see.
There
She
was
said
no pass.
so the
There was no
donor
password in the middle of the page.
in that quilt, the donor bought it at a yard sale for $25. It's linked to Pasadena and a shoe store owner's engagement.
Oh my gosh. So their engagement. So I'm wondering if people like maybe signed pieces of fabric or something, maybe like as a, I don't know.
That is cool. That is
Very
very
cool.
cool.
Like
Um,
$25.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have definitely found myself crazy quilts that cheap.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna do it for
Yeah.
us, guys. We're quite over it. We're quite over time today. So
Yeah, we
just
are.
as a reminder, next week we're gonna do the chapters Quilts Made for People and Six Quilters, which are pages 82 to 101. Don't worry if the chapters seem really short. That's on purpose. We've got other things that we're gonna look at and stuff. And who knows? Maybe we're gonna look at stuff from Arlene's exhibition that she did with Leah, and that'll be like super fun. And then tomorrow, if you guys are still available and you're not like busy with holiday things, because you can bring your cookout food with you. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're doing Needlework Nights, where we're looking at tomato pincushions. And then also as a general reminder for us on Sunday the 7th, here at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna do a special stream. We're gonna have a guest who is Executive Director Carrie Dell from American Quilt Study Group, and we are gonna talk all about this year's seminar, what the offerings are, how to register if you're feeling confused about that, things to expect, questions, pictures, all kinds of things. Just to give you a whole big lowdown on what's going to happen and all the reasons that you should really be there, especially because we're going to be there and Steph is doing a study center. So I think that's enough reason already, but like we're going to give you more. So
It'll be fun.
Arlene's going to
Yeah.
share pictures on the Facebook page. Yes, please do that. That's why the
Yeah.
Facebook page is there.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't have a fun cookout to go to on Thursday, I will be streaming. My husband
Oh yeah.
works. My husband works. He works every holiday in the summer. So I'm always home. We never do anything. My son works in furniture sales. So yeah, big July 4th sales. He will not be around. So I will be streaming. I probably will not have a topic necessarily. It'll just kind of be like a come join me to stitch and chat. So if you're around, if you're new and
I'm
nothing on
around. We're not going
2
anywhere.
p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern, I'll be here. So
Okay.
on Twitch, not here, but on Twitch.
Yes, definitely make sure that you're following stuff on Twitch. It's really not scary to use once you get the hang of it. And please do again make sure that you are subscribed to the page and that you like this video to help us out in the algorithm so that we can get to a point where we can monetize with some ads so that we can, make this viable and we don't have to go get real jobs.
Janet's flying to Alaska. Oh
Wow.
man, I bet Alaska is very comfortable right now. It's so hot here. We actually had a couple of nice days, but
Today
yeah,
wasn't too bad here, but it's gonna get gross.
yeah. Yesterday was beautiful here. And then today, this morning was perfect, but then by like 2 o'clock, it was starting to creep up and get hot. And it's supposed to be like unbearable the next 3 days, I think. So
Well, and Atlanta or Georgia or something's getting like a hurricane or whatnot that might creep up
yeah,
here after. Ooh, in the 60s
yeah, I'm
is
not sure.
amazing. All right, apparently we need to live in
Oh,
Alaska during the summer.
oh, that's right, Arlene. You're in Ohio. That's right. You're traveling right now. Oh, jealousy for the cool weather.
Mhm. All right, y'all. I
Okay.
think that's gonna do it for us.
We look forward to seeing you on the flip side.
Thank you guys so much for joining. We hope you have a great night. Bye-bye.